Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, good, good. I am very excited to be here with you. I've wanted to do a version of this for a long time to bring value to parents out there in the community here, in the community really everywhere, of people who are going through this journey of kids who have been diagnosed pediatric cancer, sickle cell, any just real life-threatening illness. Introduce yourself, and let's go back to how this all started at the beginning of Harrison's diagnosis.
Yeah, I'm Abby Ahey. My son is Harrison Ahey. When he was 2.5 years old, we went to the pediatrician's office. He got sick with strep throat, and when his doctor looked in his mouth, she said to me, "Hey, I think I see a swollen tonsil. It's kind of pushing into his airway. I want you to go to the hospital." After a few hospital visits and a few misdiagnoses or guessing at what it was, we finally got to a point where he had gotten very sick. He didn't want to eat. We got down to Children's Hospital about 3 weeks after his first visit, and almost immediately we were CT scan, ultrasound, MRIs, and within like 4 hours they were referring us up to the hematology and oncology floor. Like, never would have, last thing that would have ever crossed my mind, last thing that would have ever gone like in my head. I'm thinking that my child has an enlarged tonsil or a enlarged lymph node or anything that could be, a normal thing for a 2-year-old to have. And all of a sudden we were up on oncology and doing biopsies and looking at the rest of his body to make sure there was nothing else. They found that the tumor got so large it cracked his skull. He had some blood clots in his brain, spent some time in PICU. And on February 17th, he was diagnosed with cancer. And on February 22nd, we found out that it was a cancer called embryonal rhabdomyosarcoma, and it was a large tumor in his neck. And the whole journey just started from there.
And I want to be mindful too, like if there's anything that you don't want to talk about, I just want to be mindful.
Oh yeah, no.
But this is something that you never prepared for.
No.
Like it didn't even cross.
No, not even close.
So all of a sudden it's just like bam, like your world is upside down.
Yeah, absolutely. I was 28 weeks pregnant with my daughter when Harrison was diagnosed. We had doctors coming in asking us if he had been scratched by a cat, because apparently enlarged lymph nodes can mean cat scratch fever. People had asked us if he had been around, had we traveled to different countries. Everything in the book before cancer. And so when we got down to Children's and they did those initial scans and the first ER doctor came in and basically said, "We're referring you up to oncology," my husband and I just looked at each other and we're like, no, there's still something wrong. And even going into the biopsy, talking with the ENT and stuff, he went in for his biopsy, she came out after it was done, and we looked at her hoping it was an abscess or a growth or something. People get cysts all the time, right? All sorts of stuff in our body. And she came out and she's like, "We're doing a biopsy." She's like, "I want you to prepare. It's a solid tumor, and we'll know more." And so I think just from then on, we just knew. We just knew.
So when you got that news, go back there if you would. How do you even respond as a family? What do you do? What are you thinking? Because again, the whole basis of this is and again, God forbid there has to be a parent that goes through this, but want this to feel when they listen to this or see this, that they aren't alone.
Yeah.
What were the moments like? What did you do? How do you even pick it up and go or explain it to him?
Right.
Go back there if you would.
I feel like it was so hard to explain to Harrison at his age because he was so young. So all he knew is that he was sick, and all he knew is that he was at the hospital and he was uncomfortable. But when Jeff and I heard and we found out what was going on, there's a sense of urgency. If that sounds that's the best way I can describe it. It's we felt an urgency to find the answer so we could treat him. Because every time a kid gets sick, what do you think? You think, okay, you take them to the doctor, you give them medicine, they get better. So when you get told something like that, Jeff and I are okay, we take him to the hospital, we find out, and now we need to start, what do we do? How do we get this gone? It's terrifying because not only, does Harrison have to understand it, we have a 5-year-old at home who we have to explain now that his brother has cancer or that his brother's sick and is going to be at the hospital a lot. Harrison's treatment was months, and every 3 weeks he would be in the hospital for 3 or 4 days for an inpatient treatment. And every 3 weeks, it would just get in the routine. It would be like, oh, we're going to the hospital, let's pack your fun bag, or let's do this. So you kind of have to make it like, we're starting to figure out how to get you better. We know what medicine to like give you to get you better. And it's not easy for them because they know how they feel when they take it. But it was just like, we felt that you hear the diagnosis and you're like, okay, how do we get rid of it? Like, what do we do?
Did you use the word cancer to him?
I don't think we did to Harrison right away, no. And honestly, I don't think we did for Jeffrey at first either. Because Harrison's older brother, Jeffrey, was turning 5. He was just turning 5 at the very beginning of all that. And we started talking to him and we're like, Harrison's very sick. He's gonna take medicine that's gonna make his hair fall out. I said, we even said to him, like, there's something in his neck. I said, and we're going to take him to the hospital to give him medicine to get rid of it. And I think it was 4 or 5 months into treatment, Jeffrey came up to me one day and he's like, Mom, why doesn't Harrison go to our doctor's office? And I said, oh, Jeffrey, I said, that's because the type of doctor that Harrison goes to, like his doctor is specifically for his neck. And he says to me, he goes, oh, like the cancer? And so between us talking and between family members talking and things like that, like they pick up on it. Like they know what's going on. And I said, yes. He goes, oh, so Harrison's doctor is to get rid of cancer and my doctor is to keep me healthy. I'm like, perfect, like great way. But my 5-year-old, like a 5-year-old comprehending that, it was blowing my mind.
And I was going to ask you this question at the end, but maybe it's important as we go along to ask this question, just again, advice for parents in talking to their kids that are going through it and then siblings.
Yeah.
What do you know now that you would want to share as it relates to like that phase of it?
Yeah, I think, all kids are different. And I think we need to give the siblings, especially if they're older, or depending on their age, got to give them a lot of credit for how smart they are and how much they pick up on things. Because, Jeffrey at first, it was fun because, Mimi and Baba were coming to spend the night with him while Mom and Dad were at the hospital. And he was getting to do fun things because we were trying to keep him occupied. And I think that being open with him and him understanding like, hey, Harrison got a fever, you need to rush him to the hospital. And he would, start to understand, but sometimes you could see him getting anxious. And so to talk to him and say, he's okay. That's why we go. We go to make sure that nothing happens to him. I think that like situation by situation, but I think that a lot of siblings can handle a lot of the conversation because I think they need to understand what their brother or sister are going through.
Harrison was 2 when he was diagnosed?
Yeah.
How did he handle it, like in the thick of it?
He was so sick at the beginning. Like when we first took him to the hospital, he was so frail. He had lost like almost 10 pounds. He couldn't eat, he couldn't swallow. I think that after his initial like hospital stay and as he got a little bit older, he handled it like a champ. Like I want to sit there and say like, oh, it scared him and he got really nervous. And he did get really scared to go to clinic because he would know that he has to get poked in his chest to get his port accessed. And he would ask us like every few weeks when we go to the hospital, he's like, am I sleeping there or am I just going to visit? Because he knew that like every week he went, but every 3 weeks he spent the night. So whenever we'd go, like even now, not even joking you, we'll go sometimes for an infusion for maintenance and he'll be like, I'm not spending the night, right? And my now 5-year-old remembers that. I can't tell you how many people told me when he first got diagnosed, oh, thank gosh, he's so young, he won't remember it. He remembers every little bit of it, every single piece of it.
Did you like see sides of him, like, and maybe even of yourself, where you're like, I can't even believe how like strong he is? Where you're like, whoa, he's like, there's something different here where he's like beyond his years.
Yeah.
Because when I see him, there's almost this like, there's something bigger going on. He's like beyond his years. There's a major spark. Like, it's almost like spirit, not to get too deep, but it's almost like when I just like watch his energy and I love him.
Yeah.
But like, did you see that? What in moments where you're like, I don't even know how this is gonna work?
Yeah, absolutely. I see it a lot more now post-treatment than I did during treatment, but like, I watch him now, and things that would bother a normal 5-year-old don't faze him. Like when we'll joke around sometimes because he'll, Jeffrey will fall and hurt himself and scrape his knee outside, and Harrison will just look at him like, that's that bad? And in his mind, he's like, I think he knows that he's been through so much more. So like, he tends to be a little bit more difficult to have sympathy towards people. And I can't blame him. Like, that's so much of his childhood was in a hospital bed.
It's almost like he would, and it's funny because I was just having this conversation with my uncle yesterday about how I feel like sometimes I can be too, you want to protect your kids.
Yep.
But that can also be a disservice where life is hard. Like when you get out into the real world, like no one's coming for you. Like you got to figure it out. It's almost like Harrison had the toughest lesson at the earliest age.
Right.
That literally I get chills. That like made him such a resilient kid.
Yeah.
That like, oh, you fell and you're bleeding, get up.
Yep.
Which again, not that anyone should ever go through this, but my goodness, the muscle this kid has now.
Yeah.
How amazing to go through life like with that kind of resilience like baked in him.
Yeah. And it's funny you just said, because it's like a perfect point that I've talked about like with my husband and so many other of the moms and dads in these groups. You just said you want to protect them and you want to do anything for them. And I think that is the hardest part of this whole journey, is because like you spend so much of your life protecting your child and you physically cannot protect them from cancer. You can't protect them from those things. Like as a parent, sometimes it almost makes you feel like you failed because you didn't protect them from that, but you can't protect them from that. You know what I mean? So like you get into a situation where you literally, as a mom, I'm like, give me the cancer, I'll take it. I don't want my child to go through this. I would take this from him if I could, but it's, you can't do it. And I think that's probably the hardest lesson. And you said that and it just popped in my mind. That's something I think about a lot.
So mentally, like, how do you get through that?
Community and talking to other people that have been through it. I think like just our resources too, like knowing that you know that you can't do anything even though you want to, but also knowing that like you have a great team of doctors that are helping you and helping him, and you know that you have a community of other parents that feel the same way as you, or you have it's hard to internalize, and I still struggle with it some days. I mean, like even though we're a ways out from treatment, I think in my mind I know that we're at a point where Harrison has a lot of side effects from treatment. Like we still go all the time to the hospital. We have scans, we have infusions, we have chest x-rays and heart scans and eye appointments, and it's never over when the hair grows back, like a lot of people assume. But I think as a parent, like you just do everything you can. And I think the constant motion of doing it helps you kind of heal too. That sounds weird, but like it just does.
What did you do in the toughest moments, and even today as you go through all of this, how do you and your husband take care of yourselves and each other? Like, any advice again for parents out there? Like, you also got to take, because like, if you're not strong, then you can't. Like, were you good in that moment in terms of taking care of yourself, or you wish you would have done something different for yourself? Even, and again, not to get too personal, but like your marriage, I mean, there's a lot going on.
Oh, absolutely,
like, dynamic wise.
I think you just jump into survival mode, but so much in a way that you have to get through it. We go back and talk about this now because when Harrison was diagnosed, I'll never forget the night. It was the night of an ice storm, and we were at Children's, and we were sitting in the pediatric intensive care because Harrison had gotten those blood clots in his brain, and we had to get him on blood thinners quick. And Dr. Good had kind of already given us a rundown of like, it could be this or it could be this. We're finishing up his, his evaluation for what kind of cancer it is. However, like the treatment is the same to start for both of them. So as soon as we know, we're going to start his treatment. So when we got his diagnosis, it sounds so strange, but it was almost like a weight was lifted because we knew what was going on. We knew that we had a plan of action for it. And now all we had to do was execute it. So like, when we got there and we're like, okay, let's go. It was almost like my husband and I knew what we had to do, and we didn't have a choice. So it was like, exactly, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna follow it. Taking care of ourselves, I feel like it's a blur in taking care of myself. I was pregnant, so it was very difficult to like find that, balance. There'd be a lot of times where I'd go like do the day hospital visits, and then at night, Jeff would spend the night at the hospital with Harrison when he had his inpatient, so I could be home with a newborn. And during radiation, when Harrison was going through that, he did 31 sessions. He did it 5 days a week, and it lasted, by the time he was done, it was probably almost 7 weeks by the time like the full cycle was over. And then it was back to, the rest of treatment. But we just got in such a groove of things that I don't think our like marriage necessarily struggled. I think our relationship kind of grew stronger in the sense that like, we have a good partnership and we tag team things. And I don't know how I would have done it without a reliable, I don't know how I would have done it without him. And like, even looking back now, I'm like, man, we barely saw each other that year. We did not spend a lot of time together, like the two of us, but like somehow we feel stronger.
Because I feel that, because it's like you got through it.
Yeah.
You didn't have to say it.
Yeah.
Because it was bigger than that. If there's a parent out there listening that, again, God forbid, has got, like, what is the number one thing you would tell them to do? Like, listen, you got to do this.
Yeah.
What is like most on your heart?
Let people support you. Let people help you. If you have family or friends or a community that wants to help you, let people help you. I can't tell you. I mean, obviously, anytime someone posts something on like Facebook or someone posts something and there's a situation where there's a tragic event, let's be honest, a kid getting cancer is absolutely a tragic event in anyone's life. Let people help you. If they want to bring you dinner, if they want to, not necessarily visit, you have to watch out for your child, but like people that want to be able to help in whatever ways, it was so thoughtful. Like, you do it for other people, but then when it comes to you, you don't necessarily like expect anyone to do things for you, and then like it just outpours. It's a really weird concept because you're never on the receiving end of something like that. So I was like uncomfortable when someone asked me at first, oh, can we make a meal train for you, or can we make this? I'm like, yeah, I guess. And then people just like poured support. Our family banded together, and like my parents live 40 minutes from us. And every 3 weeks they were down Thursday through Sunday to stay with Jeffrey. And they were down whenever we needed them. If Harrison spiked a fever at 11 o'clock at night, it was either, Jeff's parents or his brother or my parents, and they were there. Like, it was a constant community. And just leaning on the people that you need, it's huge.
How were you introduced to this program? At what stage of the journey did that happen? How did it happen?
We were introduced to Kids Kicking Cancer while Harrison was in treatment. We didn't do a lot of events with them, like right off the bat. He was still really little, and he turned 3 in October of his treatment. He finished up treatment. He finished chemo in December, and then he had 3 months of treatment after that, like antibiotic type treatment and stuff. And so we were very like closed, because the way his treatment worked, his immune system was very fragile all the time. So we didn't do almost anything that whole year. Like, we were very secluded, and that's one thing I wish I would have done. Like, I wish I would have like taken Dr. Good's advice and been like, oh, he's having a good week, go do something. But in my mind, I'm like, no, he can't get sick. But I wish, looking back now, I wish I would have done a little bit more while he was in treatment. But our first interaction was actually like a connection between Rainbow Connection and here, because they joined together to do a Cranbrook event. And they were inviting both families, and so I signed up to come here. And I was like, I'm gonna bring Harrison to a class. He was 3, he was little, and it just, right away, like, he fit in. It's such a wonderful community, and to learn like that, I think Harrison knows, with Sensei Michael's background and having cancer, as a child too, and especially because him and Harrison had the same cancer, his connection with Michael is just unbelievable. Like, he feels like Michael's always there for him. Like, he's like, when we go to infusion, it's not, Mom, how long am I at the hospital? It's, is Sensei Michael coming? It's just this community, and getting involved in it was one of the best things we did.
For people that don't know about it, will you explain your experience with the classes? And even, again, he was young, 3 years old.
Yeah.
what the classes are about? Because I think people, when they're like, wait, non-contact martial arts, how does that work? Will you explain first the classes and then again, like how cool these are black belt martial artists that, oh, by the way, also are there at the hospital.
Right.
Will you just explain for somebody out there just the nuts and bolts of how it works?
Yeah. So coming into class, Harrison and the kids, like they all line up and they first like kind of work through like a body check to kind of see how they're feeling, and they lay on the ground. And it's really nice because even as an adult, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's something I should really do, is kind of check in with myself, check in with my body. How am I feeling? What's going on? What emotions am I feeling? And they just lay there with peaceful music and kind of analyze how they're feeling, because we can't know how they're feeling all the time. Like if we had just had a scan at the hospital, I know how I feel. I don't know at any point like how Harrison necessarily feels. You know, he might be feeling anxiety like I am. And so they do that. We talk about power breathing. So it teaches, you know, the kids to breathe in the light and breathe out the darkness. So it helps to, like, whenever we go and get an IV. He has to get an IV every 6 weeks, sometimes every 4 weeks, depending on scans in between. And it's never easy. It's never easy to find a vein. When his port was in, it was difficult, but like it's one poke and done because you can get it right in. But like with his vein, if you don't find one, it's another poke and then it's another poke. And it's, so I think that learning to power breathe has been big for him, although we're still trying to figure out how to use it as a 5-year-old. Sometimes he's good, other times he yells, but it's normal. And that power breathing has been big. It's been really big, not even at the hospital, but like at home. When he gets angry or upset about something, we're like, take a power breath, relax for a second. We even tell our oldest sometimes, like, he did a power breath during one of his baseball games last year. He was like up during the playoffs that they were having, and he had like 3 bad balls in a row, and I looked at him and I just went like this and put my hands back down, and he took a second, he turned around, he did a big bat. I think 2 balls later, he had a nice double down the line. And then they do get to do some fun kicks and punches and stances and stuff, which I think is honestly the kids' favorite outside of playing their games like Animal Kingdom. But they love the kicking and the punching and non-contact with people, but like into the pads. So like you're punching into the pads, you're learning like forms and techniques. And I think just incorporating the emotional component of it with the physical component of it is really cool. Really cool.
And I think it goes back to the community aspect. Like, this could be a great resource for, again, if a parent is going through this, to plug into the community, like a community that maybe they didn't want or think they were ever going to be a part of, but like, my goodness, like, we're here. Will you talk a little bit about like how the program has been there for your family, how you've experienced that as a family?
Yeah.
If something comes to mind.
Well, the program as a whole has been incredible for our family. It's been wonderful for, you know, Jeffrey to feel included, because not only a lot of things happen for Harrison. A lot of things happen for him. He gets to go to events, and, you know, sometimes he'll be like on the news with different things, or he'll get to go to like hockey games and do fun stuff. And sometimes the siblings feel left in the shadows. And I think that's the coolest part about this organization, is that there is no kids left in the shadows. And a lot of the organizations we work with are also fantastic. Like, they include our whole family, they really do. But to be able to participate in a class and to be invited to do all of the exact same things, it's so special. It's so wonderful to keep your whole family together and be able to do those things. And we really feel supported. I know I can message Cindy anytime if I need something, or if we're going through something. Whenever Harrison, like I said, has an infusion, I'm shooting Michael a message. I'm like, hey, do you have March 23rd actually down? Because I'm gonna need you at the hospital at 9 a.m. And the whole, I think just as a whole, from cancer related to non-cancer related, just constant support.
And how does it work at the hospital, just so people can understand, Sensei Michael just showing up at the hospital?
Yeah, so when he's in clinic, the hematology oncology clinic, he goes for infusions every 6 weeks. So when he had radiation, there was a lot of damage done to the side of his neck, and it damaged his thyroid. It essentially killed his thyroid, so he'll be on thyroid medication the rest of his life. Well, a 5-year-old on thyroid medication sounds really crazy, but, and it also like inhibited his ability to produce his own antibodies. So he has to go get infusions of other people's antibodies to keep him and prevent him from getting sick. So we go every 6 weeks, and at any time, I can message Michael, and Lynn has been there for me, but too, I know Peter's been over to Mott and comes to Children's too, but I could message any of them and say, hey, Harrison has a really rough time, and we already know that it's gonna be a rough and a long visit. If you're free, can you come up? And I've never asked and not had. Harrison had a PET scan at 5:30 in the morning, and Michael was sitting in the room with him. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, these people here are some of the most incredible people I've ever met. They have such a passion for what they do, and it just shows, like, in every aspect of life, it just shows. Yeah.
So what's the current update on Harrison?
So Harrison had scans back in December. He's currently in remission.
Beautiful.
We monitor a spot that pops up on his MRIs a lot. It's still likely just post-radiation damages to his tissues and his nerves and stuff in there. So we still watch it closely. He's in remission. He just deals with a lot of side effects. And I think that's a big part of the journey that doesn't get discussed very often is the post-treatment journey. Because, you know, we were going through treatment for a year and everything was so gung-ho, and then all of a sudden you're not there every week and it's not part of your routine. And it's very hard. Like, it's a lot harder than I was expecting it to be. Like, I was so excited for life to go back to normal. Like, that was the first thing I said. And I've talked about this with other moms too, and I've had other moms ask me, you know, I can't wait for normal. And I'm like, but it doesn't go back to normal. It's different, and it's always different. Like, you always feel different. Like, now, we just prepped, like, I think 2 weeks ago, Harrison went into the hospital. He had his chest x-ray, which he gets every 6 months, just to make sure that nothing pops up in the lungs, because chemo was harsh. He had his infusion, and then he had an echocardiogram of his heart, because chemo, again, can be very damaging on their little bodies. And then we have, you know, ENT to check his ear out, and then we have an ophthalmology appointment because he has damage to the nerves. So it's just, it doesn't stop when the treatment does. Like, even though his cancer's gone, his journey is, like, far from over. It's not done.
So, again, with that lens of, like, advice to parents, when they get to that point, what is your advice?
Reach out, ask for someone to talk to, ask for help, because I, as a parent, feel sometimes more lonely in post-treatment life than I did during the journey, because you were so busy. Like, you were so busy making sure that everything was going, like, so smooth and making sure that your kid was taken care of. And now, you know, we still do a lot, but you still have this fear, like, hanging over you. Like, is it coming back? Because it's a reality that a lot of kids face. Like, it's not always gone forever for everybody. And it's a lot of reality that, you know, as a parent, every time we walk in for a scan, I'm like, okay, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Like, it just, you have to make sure that you have people that understand what you've been through.
Going back to, I want to just, hold on, I just want to check. So going back, I don't want to be mindful of your time here, but to the earlier days when there were fears or unknowns, how do you, like, is there a way that you can help a parent cope with that? I mean, it's like they're, like, in the dark with the scariest thing of their life.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even begin to approach that?
I think that's a really difficult question, because all of us handle things so much differently, and every kid's, you know, diagnosis is so differently. But, like, I just feel like you have an instinct, and you have to, like, not only trust, like, your medical team, but trust your gut, like, on things. Like, when his doctor, I will never forget the night that his doctor came into his room and sat on the floor. I thought for certain she was going to give me the worst news of my life. And at the time, it was the worst news of my life. She sits down and she goes, you know, Harrison has a fracture in his skull. There are 3 blood clots in his brain, and we need to get him up to PICU right away for monitoring. And in my darkest moments, in my mind, I'm sitting here trying not to think that my kid is dying. Like, I remember talking to Jeff after all this was over, and he's like, "Did you ever feel like what's going to happen if he's not here?" And I was like, "Yes." Like, unfortunately, yes. Like, there were days where we'd sit there and we look back and we're like, there could have been real possibilities that was our reality, and there are parents that have that reality, and it's awful. And you have to know your discernment, and you have to be able to talk to your doctors and your community and reach out to people and trust your medical team. And if you don't find the right medical team, like there's so many options. But I think during your darkest moments, it's very important to like communicate, because those are like hard things to go back. And now it's like to think that I like ever thought that or I felt that way.
Right. And that's again why we want to do these, is just to like have parents and moms be able to have that community and connect, you know, to hear it from you instead of a doctor, or just not know it all.
Yeah.
You know, so let me just review a few last things. If you had to describe this program in one sentence to a parent, how would you describe it?
This program can quite literally become your family and connect you to people that can carry you through your darkest moments, you and your family. I don't have a lot of other words outside of gratitude, and I don't think I could ever like fully sum up in one sentence what everybody here means to me and Harrison and my whole family. But every time I think about coming here, I think about like community, and this is like a branch of my family at this point. Like, these people are another portion of my family.
It's beautiful. So just last words, again, to the moms, to the parents out there that are going to be listening and watching. What is most on your heart that you would want them to know as you reflect on this journey and all that you've conquered and all that Harrison's conquered? What do you most want them to know from your heart?
You aren't alone, even when you feel like you are. That there is a community of us out here that's children has gone through cancer or life-threatening illnesses or things that have affected their everyday life. And I pray that you find a community, because when we were in the middle of treatment, I didn't find a community. I just put my head down and went to work, and I so wish that I would have. And I think that's why I'm so boisterous and advocate so much for other parents to talk to other people, because I wish I would have. And I'm glad that I can now, because I feel like that community is so important from diagnosis through life. Just you find the community and stay with them.
It's beautiful. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you didn't get to say? This was wonderful, but I just want to make sure there's nothing else that you wanted to say.
No, I don't think so.
That was great.